Good morning and welcome to it's not another dad joke podcast. I'm your host, Alex Johnson, and we are going to chat about some random stuff today. So this is going to be a series 1 podcast, spitballing just off the top of my head, random bits and bobs. Christmas is over. It's the 27th of December now, which means for me, got a really nice big family meetup today. I'm really looking forward to it. But what it also does is gets me looking at the future, gets me looking at next year, everything I want to accomplish, everything I've wanted to accomplish and have not accomplished in 2022, and what needs to happen to move forward to really secure the wins there. And I think the biggest one is that these sort of side projects, these personal endeavours that I want to try and achieve are lacking in the progression. Let's put it that way. So I think I've been, obviously the 1 a day podcasts sort of went out the window a little bit earlier on in the month, which I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. So they're just sort of a bit ad hoc at the moment, which is fine. I'm not on any set schedule or anything like that, so that one's fine. No problem there. But even when the little one was born, the idea was that in January we would assess the situation of me being able to do streaming again. And obviously it's getting to that point, but I look at my streaming setup and how I want it going into the new year, and it's not there yet. So we've got this new name for the stream and for the podcast and everything like that, and one of the things that I want to be able to do is create intros, and I still need to get like the sound intros, sound bites, the littler things that make it come across a lot more professional. Still need to do those, but in my mindset, without a logo I can't do the videos, because the logo will obviously feature in the videos and I want it looking good. So my next step is to look at getting a logo done, which is I want to try and get someone on that today. I might reach out to a few people on Fiverr, something like that. I've used Fiverr before. They were the ones that did my previous streamer logo, and I really liked that one. So potentially do a similar thing and see what a couple of people can come up with. Hopefully something better than what I've done. Now I can do some design work. I don't have the programs or the knowledge of the programs to really lock it in professionally. So I'm lacking in some experience there. So I always have to kind of outsource to get the final product. So I have drafted a couple of ideas for the podcast name, logo, and the stream logo. And I think I like them. I do. And especially the unedited dad one, which overall is going to be my brand name, the unedited dad or unedited dad. I might drop the but it looks good, and the way in which I've done it. So this is series 1 podcast. This is me just talking about the ideas, the progression, where I'm heading, what I want to do, all that jazz. So the in unedited is kind of in its own little box, the way I've designed this logo. Obviously once it's released, hopefully if it follows that pattern, you'll kind of see what it's on about. But that was a design choice that I've made so that in the future, if I want to do anything extra, I can use words that begin with "un" and keep the "un" in the box, and then the rest of the word outside of the box. So obviously, if you can picture "un" in a box, and then on the outside is edited, and then you've got "dad." So, like as an example, it could be unity or unite or something like that, but the "un" is inside the box, the rest of the word is outside of the box. And there's lots of words that begin with "un." I'm not going to go through them all now, but some of them lead quite well potentially for merchandise, doing life coaching, personal training, potentially more as well. So I think if like £1 million dropped on my lap today, I would want to launch a clothing line as well, and go from there. There's lots I would want to do. Me and the other half, we've had a lot of conversations, just sort of dreaming of, what if we won the lottery? What would we do with that money? And a lot of all of my answers are based around investing, but there is always a set amount of that money aside for me to try and develop a business. So there would definitely be money invested into developing a business. But right, let's try and get a little bit of focus here this morning. Let's try and get some growth going. So let's switch the topic round, and I want to talk about sort of me managing, because I've got obviously this new role that I start in January, which is great, and I'm not going to use that as an example because that has to be a very positive thing in my life at the moment. So I want to experience what it's like first before I kind of start dragging it into podcasts and chatting about what I'm doing there. So there was a previous job I've done where I got the job and I went in, I wanted to speak to the other managers that I would be managing. So I rocked up in my casual clothes before I even started, and just had a little sit down with them, right? And looking back at it now, I realised the first conversation I had with them was actually a very negative conversation. I thought at the time it was me trying to be a good manager and hearing them. So I sat them down and I went, I didn't cough in their face. What struggles have you got? What do you not like about the role? And I asked them to be honest, because I said, look, if there's anything you're not a fan of that I can find a way to change, I'll change it. And they told me a few things, and a majority of them were actually easily fixable. So that's exactly what I did. I fixed them and I made them better for them. So the end result did create a bit more positivity there. But my first conversation with them as their boss was basically, what don't you like about this company? Let's get it all out in the open. What negative thoughts have you got about this company? And obviously looking back at it now, it's a really poor way to start. I added extra things in there, what do you want to achieve? What are your ambitions? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? That's the key things I wanted to discuss. But then, I chucked in this, so what issues have you got? Can we fix them? And I managed to get away with it because I was able to change the majority of what they didn't like, I managed to find ways around it that can make it better. I did manage to create a more positive working environment, but the fact that that first conversation was so negative, like, I think I was very lucky. It didn't necessarily affect my standing there, but if I was to go in and do that now, I would question myself and I would be wording it differently. You know, it would be more, I would want to, the first conversation with them would be as positive as possible. You know, I tend to normally step back a little bit, maybe for my first week, do some observation, kind of take that in, and then that would lead to like a follow-up one-to-one with them where I can bring up any observations of like, oh look, these shifts here, you weren't particularly motivated, like, and it seems to be a pattern for these sort of shifts, like what's going on? And then you can get it out of them that way. And I've brought up the conversation of sort of what don't you like, but I haven't been the one to say it, because as the top manager in a club, in a gym, in a job, whatever, is that even if you don't like it, you have to like it. That's kind of the premise sometimes. You're the motivation, you're the driving force that pushes these places forward. And if your first conversation is, right, let's dish about everything we don't like about this company, come on, tell me it all, spill the beans, you're not given the persona of, yes, come on, we can do this, let's go. Even though I think the way I did it luckily ended up being okay, but that wouldn't happen every time. So I consider that conversation bad managerially, what I did back then. So it's first time managers or new managers stepping in, definitely you need to understand what drives your workers. You need to understand what drives the company, and you need to get the two synergistically working together as best as you can. So a lot of my experience comes from gyms. I worked for Pure Gym for many years. I was a manager for Pure Gym for years, and so obviously I was dealing with personal trainers a lot of the time. So to get personal trainers' lives, aka their personal training business, working synergistically with a gym seemed really obvious. You know, the more clients they have, the better profile the gym's going to have, the better profile the gym's going to have, the more people will want to sign up to it. The more people that sign up to it, the higher chance you've got of selling more personal trainers. So it's a symbiotic relationship, which works really well. And if you can discover that, no matter what team you're in, you need to be able to mesh as many goals together as you can. But the other thing as well is people, so many conversations I've had with people when I've sort of taken over departments, and this is outside of gyms now, this is previous roles across my whole life, is the amount of people who say that their boss didn't care about them, didn't talk to them, they're just a number. And normally you hear that about a company, not a manager. A good manager will never make you feel like a number. Unfortunately, companies sometimes do, because that's the nature of a company. Unless you are directly working with the person who owns the company, it's quite hard to get some of that change, because some of these companies are so big, majority of the people are behind an email. And it's hard to have that connection, but that's where the managers need to be on point. And my experience is managers are not good People are getting hired into managerial roles, higher managerial roles, who have, yes, they've been able to get results on paper, on black and white. They can be an asset for the company. But their people skills and their development skills are beyond a joke. And that's ultimately what lets companies down, because you're going to get higher turnover, more time spent training, puts pressure on other departments to pick up the slack while you're waiting for new people, and it's a vicious cycle that just goes on and on and on. I feel the best managers are those who can develop their staff, because if you've got good, happy, developed staff, they do the work for you. They will get the results that you want without you having to always be the one to get them. You just got to make sure that they're good and they're happy. That's why one-to-ones that I do, always, the majority of the conversation is about them, where they're at, what they want to achieve, what their work-life balance is like, what are they up to outside of work, what do they want to achieve outside of work. Because when you really think about it, and sometimes, some businesses will be anti this way of thinking, but it's rare in a business that you will really work alongside someone, or be in a position yourself where how well the company does directly affects how much you get paid. I'm talking stocks, shares, the real high end, we've done so well this year, I'm going to give myself like a 50k bonus as a thank you to myself. Unless you own a company and start a company, it's very hard and takes a long time to get to that level. Now, obviously, that takes dedication, hard work. You're not going to get there just by clicking your fingers. You're going to have to get down and grind. But majority of people will never get to that position, which means that their ultimate goal probably lies outside of work. What do they really want to achieve with their life, rather than what do they really want to achieve at work? With all of my jobs, progression is the goal. I want to be progressed. I want to move up the ranks. I want more responsibility. I want all of that jazz. I want to be a company guy. It's embedded into me from my parents. My dad was a company guy and he worked his arse off and was very successful. And that created a really good role model for me. My mum was a head teacher, and she did the same thing. She was in it for the career, worked her ass off, reached a very high level, and gave me an amazing role model. So definitely great examples in my life. Sorry, I got a little bit distracted. There was a noise and it's dark. I couldn't quite hear what was going on. And with the light shining in my eyes, I can't really see what's going on either. Anyway. Majority of people that you work with, or positions that they're in and things like that, you will... their ultimate interest will likely lie outside of work. Now, to create a good, efficient worker at work, they psychologically, they need to feel that they're making progress in all these areas. So you have to take an interest in their personal life. You have to take an interest in their goals outside of work. That's a big way to, one, create trust, create a great working relationship, that when you need them to focus on something specific at work, they can do. They've got the training, they know how to do it, they know how to do it the way you want to do it, all of that jazz. So it's that working togetherness and taking a genuine interest. If you don't take a genuine interest, people will see right through you. They'll know you don't really care. They'll know that you're either incapable of developing them in those areas or something like that. So as a manager, that's what you need to be able to do. In my opinion, it has done me very well. It has allowed me to have a lot more open, honest conversations with staff where they open up to me in ways that they've never done with other managers before, because they trust me, because I've helped them develop something outside of work, knowing full well that they now know that I care. So that's kind of a little bit tidbit. So I think I'm gonna end it there. I kind of got a little bit weirded out walking down there and hearing something, if I'm honest. The other thing is I can continue chatting and do it while I'm walking, but I was previously in a field. I can be nice and loud. Here now, like, I always get a little bit slightly self-conscious when I'm walking down the streets because it's early in the morning. I don't want to wake people up, but I do think the mic helps. And we could be on for good. Let's time check how long we've been going. To be fair, we've been going 20 minutes, so that's about right. So, takeaways. Business, we are moving forward with it. The brand name is set. Welcome to the Unedited Dad business. This is one of the pies that we're looking at going into, the podcasts. This is not another dad joke. But there's a lot more to be done. So in an ideal world, hopefully in a year's time, in 2 years' time, if you follow this or follow my journey of what I'm doing, you'll see how far I can take this. And potentially you'll be one of the first people who got in on it when it first started. Now, currently there is no product I'm trying to sell. There isn't really any kind of money-making strategy. The initial starting point for this is to give me a platform to be able just to talk for my mental health. And if what I talk about motivates and helps others, then that is the win. Okay. Down the line, in terms of profiting off of it, there is the streaming side, but I'm not hopeful there. And I don't mean to sound negative with that. It's more, if I do start streaming, it's maybe going to be once or twice a week. If I build an audience, fantastic. If I do make some money off of that, fantastic. But it's just another way for me to film, generate content, because at the moment we're not looking at anything TikTok. This is just Spotify, and then majority of these are going on YouTube as well. So we're Spotify, we're YouTube. What would be good is to spend some time editing these down, make some TikToks, and then do some streaming, and then that puts us back on Facebook, and then all of this to find a way to synergize it and put it all on Facebook and have a nice community there as well. Anywho, right, that's the plan. So let's see where we're at in 2 years' time. And you could be tuning in to this exact podcast, listening to me talking about where we're going to be, but you could be listening to this in 2 years' time. So the next video you watch could be the one 2 years from now, and you're like, oh yeah, I just got pushed onto your page. I watched the one where you're chatting about 2 years' time, and I'm watching the 2 years' time video. In which case, let me know how I've been doing. Anyway, have a fantastically, magically amazing day, and I'll see you guys soon.